guys, and welcome to another episode of Flavor and Fiction. So, the category for my reading challenge this time was a young adult novel. And I went to the library to look for Perks of Being a Wallflower, but it wasn't there, so I ended up grabbing a random book. And the book I chose was We Are Okay. Yeah, that's it. We Are Okay by Nina LaCour. That's quite a name there. And what we're going to be making today that correlates with the book is spinach tortellini soup. So, another first for me. Never made this soup before, so let's get started. Okay, so this book is about an 17 or 18-year-old girl named Marin. She lives in California near the beach with her grandfather. And the reason she lives with her grandfather is because her father was never in the picture. And when she was 3 years old, her mother died while she was surfing. And the grandfather always felt kind of guilty because he was the surfer in the family who taught his daughter how to surf. So he always felt responsible. But he and Marin, they have a great relationship, but they also give each other their space. She's never been in his room. He's never been in her room. But, you know, they get along. And Marin has a best friend named Mabel. School's great. Everything's going great until. So we're going to get back to that first. To start the soup, just to cut down the time on some of these videos, I'm going to go ahead and pre-cut the vegetables that are going in. So I'll be right back. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is just to add 2 tablespoons of some olive oil. That looks like 2 tablespoons, right? I don't know. Maybe a little more. Maybe a little more. Okay, that's enough. We're going to put this over over medium-high heat. And I told you I already chopped the vegetables because it takes me forever for some reason to do that. So we're going to put in our carrots and celery. Okay. And it said to use 1 medium onion. I'm not a huge fan of onions, so I always use less than they tell me. And this, I ended up using like 1/4 of an onion. That's just me. Go ahead and use your whole onion if you're about that life. And then you just want to put a pinch of salt. I'm going to put it in my hand first because I don't want to overdo it. So just a pinch of salt. Don't worry, we're going to use some low sodium broth, but just mix it all up there. And we're going to let this cook for about 5 minutes before we do the next step. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the book while this is cooking. So, where were we? Okay, so Marin, she's living the life. She has her grandfather. She has her best friend, Mabel. But then one day, her grandfather starts acting a little cryptic and, you know, talking about one day when he's not around. So she thinks that maybe he's sick and not telling her. And it turns out that he was so overcome with grief about his daughter that he ended up committing suicide the way that his daughter died, which was going into the ocean and letting it take him. So after he disappeared, she went into his room for the first time ever, and she found a closet with all of her mother's things, including photos that she had asked to see that he claimed were like lost in a fire, that everything was gone. So she was so upset over losing her grandfather and so upset at him for not telling her the truth and for leaving her alone. She left for college early. She stayed in a motel for 2 weeks because her grandfather had left her some money. And then she went off to her college, which was in New York. She hasn't talked to Mabel in several months because Mabel had to go to college. All this happened like the day after Mabel left for college, so she was really alone. So fast forward, it's now Christmas time. Everyone at school is going home, and she decided to stay at the dorm, and they decided to let her since she said she had no family, which is true. So she finally got in touch with Mabel, and Mabel was coming for a visit. And that's really where the book starts, because I told you it goes back and forth. So Mabel's coming for a visit, and she's dreading explaining what happened to Mabel. The fact that her grandfather was crazy, and writing these letters to what they thought was his girlfriend. She was nervous to see her also because before they left for college, they kind of had a thing happen on the beach, and they became a little bit more than friends. Okay, so vegetables got a little brown, maybe a little too brown, but we're going to pour in our low sodium vegetable broth here. And I don't know if you could see the brand I use, but it's College Inn, and this is the 40% less sodium there. Let's just give that a stir. And we're going to bring this to a boil. Oh yeah, so Mabel's coming for a visit. Marin's having like a panic attack because she doesn't know how to connect with her friend anymore. And then Mabel arrives and announces that she has a boyfriend. He reveals that she's there because she wants Marin to come back home with her for Christmas break. She basically wants her family to adopt her. And she has so many feelings about that because she's so close to them and they have a room for her and they want her. It was just hard for her to accept that generosity. So they get snowed in, so they have no choice but to deal with each other. The book is really, really well written. Like it's a young adult novel, so like it went really quickly. It was a very quick read, but so deep. Like it actually, you know, might shed a tear a little bit. You know, I told you the bulk of the story. But if you want to just find out what happens with Marin, does she go back? Does she, you know, accept them as family? Does she decide to be a loner? Because that's kind of the point of the book. So even though I told you a lot, it really wasn't that big of a spoiler, believe it or not. All right, I think the vegetables are done. Okay, so then you want to bring it to a boil. Then you want to cover and reduce heat and let it simmer for a few minutes just to let the veggies get soft. So vegetables are now soft. We're ready to add our 5 ounces of baby spinach. And then we're going to add our tortellini. I chose Buitoni's 3 cheese tortellini, but you can pick any kind you want. And then you want, what is this, 9 ounces? Yeah. And you're just going to cook it according to the instructions on the package of the tortellini, which is basically to let it come to a gentle boil for 7 minutes. So here we go. You know what? Okay. There we go. Leave this alone. Let it come to maybe turn it up just a smidge here. And let it do its thing. I'm getting hungry. Let's see it. Let's take a little peek. Ooh, that looks good. I'm ready. And it's ready. I am so excited to try this right now. Okay, so I'm getting ready to taste this delicious soup. All right, let's see. Hot, 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 hot. Oh, hot. That's really good. If I could do one thing differently, I would have let the vegetables simmer a little bit more before adding the stuff. I would have liked them a little bit softer. So I think I'm gonna leave the pot just sitting on the heat for a minute and cover it just to help with that. But everything else is perfect. This is so good. Why didn't I do this earlier? So anyway, I guess before I finish eating, I should say thanks for watching. This has been another edition of Flavor and Fiction. Tune in next time and be sure to subscribe.